The coffee was gone, but the stain still remained. She stared into her empty mug in the corner of a diner, the blood still soaked in her clothes and mixed with the dirt on her face. She sat hunched as her long legs bounced under the table, eyes darting from one person to another. Everyone was staring at her. Patrons shied away and whispered about her attire. The faded blue shirt she wore over her black tank top was covered in an oily, bloody, soiled mixture. She quickly turned back to her mug and began to breathe rapidly, almost hyperventilating. A waitress stood next to the counter, clutching a few menus against her chest, as her and a few of her co-workers stared warily at her. They all wore their uniforms, light blue shirts with collars, black pants and shoes, and a small rectangular strip of plastic where a pocket would be. Hers read Isabelle. Isabelle stashed the menus away and took a deep breath before cautiously walking over to her with a fresh pot of coffee. The mug clattered against the table with nervous tension. Isabelle swallowed hard. "Refill?" Isabelle's voice wavered, her brown eyes wide and filled with fear. The woman ran her dirty palm through her matted hair and gingerly shook her head. If you want, I could call someone for you. Do you need help?" Isabelle placed a gently shaking hand on the woman's shoulder. The woman flinched, leaning away. "Please, I don't need your help." The woman's eyes paused at the name tag. "Isabelle?" Isabelle saw the pain in the woman's eyes and felt compelled beyond reason to stay with her. She sat across from the woman at the small rectangular table. She reached out and touched the woman's hand, but then pulled a strand of her short brown hair behind her ear instead. "Could you tell me your name? Please, I just want to help if I can." The woman glanced up at Isabelle and saw the friendliness and warmth behind her deep brown eyes. She quickly looked back to her mug. "Lacy." Isabelle smiled a bit. "It's nice to meet you." Lacy glanced up. Isabelle noticed her brilliant blue eyes were lined red before Lacy turned her attention back to the cup. Isabelle bit her lip and took in a deep breath. "So, how are you?" Lacy let out a short breath and a scoff. "How do I look?" "Like you've been through a lot. Do you want to talk about it?" Lacy glanced up at Isabelle again. "Don't you have work to do, Isabelle?" Isabelle looked startled. She had completely forgotten she was even at work in the short amount of time she spent trying to console another human being. She was hesitant. Lacy was suddenly feeling less rattled about talking. Isabelle assumed there must have been something about her that just made this stranger want to talk. "It's not what it looks like," Lacy said as she ran her hands across her arms, "in case you're wondering." Isabelle let out a deep sigh of relief. What happened? "It's such a stupid reason to be crying." Lacy let out a low laugh. She wiped her eyes and blew her nose on a napkin. I broke up with my boyfriend." Isabelle cocked her head to the side. "I know. It's so silly for me to look like I just murdered someone or something when I just broke up with that jerk, but it's the truth." Isabelle reached for the mug. "But the dirt and blood. This shirt was my father's. He used to work at a meatpacking plant before he died. I always wear this shirt when I'm upset. It helps to comfort me." "And the dirt?" Lacy rubbed her face. "I guess I am a little dirty. I hadn't noticed. I had no idea I looked so terrible." She laughed. The diner was silent as they listened to Lacy's laughter. It was as unexpected as it was oddly sinister. The energy in the diner seemed to lighten. Isabelle smiled. "Is that all it is, then?" "Yeah. It's okay to be sad about it, you know, if you loved him. If you want, I can talk to you some more after my shift. I get off in an hour. Would that be okay, Lacy?" "I'm sorry to have frightened you and all your customers, Isabelle." "It's always nice to meet new friends, isn't it?" Isabelle smiled as she rose from the table. She poured more coffee into the mug and went back to work. "Yes, it is. I'll be waiting for you." Isabelle nodded and walked back to the counter. Lacy smiled as she stared out the window, waiting for Isabelle to be done with her work. Her demeanor completely changed from the frightened individual that first entered the diner. "Sorry to keep you waiting," Isabelle said as she rushed over to Lacy. "No need to apologize, Isabelle." They stood and walked out of the diner together. You seem much calmer, said Isabelle. Do you feel better? I will soon enough. Lacy led Isabelle around the corner. Isabelle noticed there were fewer people as they continued down the road Lacy had led them. Where are we going, Lacy? You'll find out soon enough. Lacy pushed Isabelle gently into an alley and glanced around a bit. She turned to face Isabelle. What are you doing? Isabelle became nursy. Lacy smiled. I'm hungry. We can get a bite to eat, Isabelle trailed off. The nice ones always taste the best. Lacy ran her finger down Isabelle's jawline. The dumb ones do too. What do you mean? Lacy laughed. So simple, so sweet. Lacy grabbed Isabelle's neck. Her screams mixed in the afternoon air with the loud traffic and busy people rushing to their destinations. The coffee was gone, but the stains still remained. Lacy stared into her empty mug in the corner of a coffee house, seemingly upset at the day's events. A young worker stared at her from the counter, pouting as a small smile played on Lacy's lips.